It's lights out, and away we go with the next episode of Rudisheim, today with a very special racetrack build. We're going to start with a little real-time section now, but later there is also a little time-lapse in which I'm going to explain a bit more. Welcome back to Rudisheim, and as promised and also as requested on the last episodes, we are doing a little bit of a real-time part first of all, before we will go into the time-lapse. Now this episode is going to be special, because we're doing something rather unique for this series and also for something, just in general for Cities Skylines 2 at the moment, something that I haven't seen anyone doing, but also that I wanted to do specifically because it fits so well into the region over here. Now, before we are going to build the racetrack, as you've seen from the thumbnail obviously, we need to reach the next milestone, and I will show you that we will have to tackle a lot of issues in the very next episode. Potentially I'm going to do this on a live stream, so I'll let you know on Discord and on the YouTube community wall as well. If you're interested in a live stream of that, make sure to be there, but we have to fix a lot of things. So the first thing we have to fix is basically our traffic situation. We have a horrendous traffic situation at the moment. We also need to put down maybe another crematorium. We can do this right away, as we're doing money-wise, kind of nice. I'm just gonna put this one rather outside the city. I think this is a good spot over here where we can put it. We have another one. Actually, we have another one over here. You know what we do? I think it would be more smart to have, we've got a cemetery over here. Yeah, maybe I'm gonna relocate this in the next time. But yeah, we are facing a lot of issues, as you can tell. I think the biggest issue at the moment we are facing is the traffic issues. Let me just quickly show you. So, the traffic in general looks really bad, but specifically in these two areas, it's like completely devastating. There is no way around saying this any better than this. I have to redo the complete inner line of traffic over here. There is a lot of misplanning happening, but also the game makes my life not even easier. So I have to really redo a couple of things in the next episode. That's gonna be very tough. Also over here, what do we have over here? Crime scene. A crime has been committed here. Okay, well then just let the police come over and deal with that. I think this area is not really nicely covered from police, if I remember correctly. Yeah, it's not really nicely covered. So basically what we would need over here is a police coverage. Well, in fact, I don't even know where to put it exactly right now. So we are going to take care of this in the next episode. But we have to ensure that we do really a lot to improve the traffic. I have some ideas, some of which go into making more bridges and more tunnels that go over so that we have a more direct connection between those. We definitely have to upgrade some more of the central roads to bigger roads relatively quickly. So we might actually spend another money on the large roads to ensure that we have more space, specifically in these middle regions, even though if that means most of the buildings have to regrow. As you can see, we also need to deal a lot with the commercial demand, which is outrageous at the moment. I'm not really sure why exactly, but you can tell that specifically in the back here, there is like such a high demand for commercial, most likely because these areas don't really have anything to say about that. As you can say, and this is why I need to really improve all these streets. So basically what we have to, we can already do that right now. So these have to be adjusted rather quickly, I guess. So most of these roads I have to already adjust. Yeah, it doesn't matter to which side I'm gonna do this. They have to all regrow anyway. So we have to pay attention to this in the next bigger episode. Oh my god, look at that. There's a tiny gap that it didn't take. So let me quickly do this as well. Bam, there you go. So yeah, we also have to look into making sure that we don't have that many pedestrian crossings, pay a bit of attention to making sure that pedestrians are a bit more tackled just in general. And yeah, I think the biggest weakness of this town at the moment is the lack of traffic connection, specifically to the two industrial zones. They have both just very one way to go in. So this whole industrial zone over here is basically connected by this road, and this entire industrial zone is only connected through here. So there is no way for them to go here. As you can see, this is one of the highway connections we need to do. Basically, I think I'm going to do this before I build the racetrack, just to see if that changes anything over here if I do the connection. So I think this might already change a couple of things if we have a connection that goes in here. And one thing I did do is also I started building this mountain region over here. I've never seen that icon. What's air pollution? how does this air pollution, surrounding pollution is negative? This is interesting. Is that coming from down here? Let me just see quickly. Air pollution is, which one of these is that one? Noise pollution, water pollution, air pollution. It still is in the corridor of the industry. Okay, well, actually we have to deal with that. I thought that the mountain would be enough to take that away, but apparently it's not. Okay, that's interesting. Maybe we can deal with that by putting more forests down over time. I never had the issue because normally I'm planning this wisely. But yeah, so there have to be a lot of changes, and specifically this entire industrial region will be moved. This will be completely gone, and I will embed that into the city so that we have a whole better road connection. I think this is very much needed. And what we also have to do is to focus on these regions in the far back. I put a couple of farms down to grant them some more jobs nearby. We will also give them a train station at times, and then we will also bring this train station back into the main city, which will connect rather to this down. So I want to make this lower end over here the central part of the city, so that we will take this entire area in for us, and that will hopefully also move the traffic demand a little bit more to the downside here. So that should be better. So there's a whole bunch of things to do. So the next episode is going to be very exciting to see if we can deal with that. And you know what we do for the moment being, just because we have that crazy demand, we need to reach the next milestone. We're going to put down a lot of commercial zones down here, as I want to improve the situation over here with the traffic anyways. I'm going to create like a large road out of this one, and then I'm gonna just take that large road, drag it actually out of here, and then we're gonna reconnect this basically. Let me see that we can make this parallel in a way and connect this nicely over here. This is like quite a huge incline. I quite don't like this. Let me just get rid of these, and then we should level that out a little. And you know what? Frankly, we can have like a little cliff over here. I'm fine with the cliff. We can deal with the cliff better than we can with the incline. So I'm gonna make this cliff look nicer later on. We don't need to have everything like baby's butt flat, you know. It's not really required in order to make a nice city. And this is Germany, you know. We have some hills. It's fine, you know. It's not like we don't. So let's just bring this in. It doesn't also need to be all super straight over here. It's all good, even though that looks a little bit too crazy. I'm gonna make this like slightly curved. I think this is nicer to make this like slightly curved. There you go. That's a lot better. That's nicer. Okay, fine. And now we're bringing in like smaller roads in between, just to be able to connect more of the commercial stuff. There you go. I'm not really happy with how this looks, to be honest. Maybe we can just get like a parallel road in here. Let's see if that works somehow, because I don't need to go with this incline. I don't really like this. So let's just do it that way. I think this works a bit nicer, so we don't have the direct connection down here anyways. Might actually be a bit nicer this way. And then we're just gonna put down the commercial zone. This one can be zoned entirely. Let me just zone these other ones a little bit more manually, so to be sure that we have a bit more control over the industrial buildings themselves. Come on, start building. We have a high demand. Come on, put yourself a building in there. So yeah, in case you're wondering what I'm doing over here, with this technique, you can basically gain control over how big the buildings shall be, and you always have to see what is the side you're building with. So this side is here. I'm not sure why this is not building. Do you need like a 4x3? No? Oh, wait a sec. I was fooled by myself. This is the connection down here. So yeah, you can actually have like a bigger one like this. Okay, down here I want to have like one like this and another one like that. This one can be a tiny bit bigger. That one can actually be rather big. Oh, look at that. It's making two out of it. Okay, that's fine. We can still wait for a bigger one. Can we just... No, stop. I just want to have a bigger one. Okay, well, then just do... Well, whatever, build 3 of them. It's fine. We're almost there with the next milestone. It's gonna build itself now. There you go. 2.5 million, that's good. But the best thing is we have 12 tiles to unlock, which we will do. And then we will go over into the speed build part, even though winter is not really looking too nice in terms of colors. I'm sorry for that. Maybe I'm gonna boost saturation later on a little bit more. Now, as you can tell, traffic and stuff is still a nightmare. We will have to look into public transport. We also do not have the best control over public transport at the moment. If I'm gonna deactivate all these things, you'll see in a second why. I'm just gonna keep the tram tracks in, so you can see this is our tram network for the moment, and it's not really. Oops. Where are you going? Where are we going? Come on, just they're all back in. I don't really get why this doesn't keep it. Like, I don't know. I mean, maybe because I need to manually click them in afterwards again. But there you go. Now you can see it. It's not really the most clever tram network at the moment, and it's also specifically down here creating a couple of issues, and we also do not have too many trains, so we would actually need to change this tram network also dramatically. In order to bring those in, we need a connection down here. We need to ensure that our industrial zone is completely moved as well. As you can see, down here is a good area, but I want to push it a lot higher up in here. We've got a lot of forest over here. This can be the second biggest area for the industrial zone. And also I want to have like another one over here so that we guide the traffic also this direction, so that our little towns have a bit more of a reason to exist. So this is the plan for next episode, but this time around we're going to make the racetrack, which is going to sit here in the middle nicely. That's going to be a very interesting spot to put it. But yeah, therefore we are just going to buy the tiles, I would say. So we do require actually these 4 over here. Will be purchased for that, and you know what, I'm just gonna get that as well, just so we have it in between there. I want to expand the city in this direction. I said, you know, this might actually be clever. To how many left do we have? 5. Okay, we might need to be a bit more clever about this. So this is a good spot. As I said, I wanted to move the industry a little bit further up. The problem though is, I mean, this area is good for industry anyways, so I need to get these 2. I've got 3 left, right? Yeah, 3 left is good. It's now the question, do we get these 3 or do we get these 3 down here? I mean, the problem is we can't get the whole highway anyways, so this is still left out over here. But I think I'm gonna get these, because that's required to really go down into this region. Okay, let's get this done. 2.5 million left, or actually 2.9 million left, so it's almost 3 left. And we were doing quite okay with money. It's not too shabby, you know, at this point. It's all good. So that looks fine to me. And now it's the moment to go over into the real-time part, into the speed build, I'm sorry, to make sure to build our racetrack, and we do the connection with the highway over here, which will then also get another highway direction, maybe more up here, which is then gonna go around the lovely track in the mountains. It's gonna be a very nice racetrack. I'm super much looking forward to that. So let's do it. Thank you for handing me over past time, Rudi. Here's the track already laid out. I'm very sorry that I couldn't have that in the time-lapse. I basically did record it, but since the game crashed, without any further losses, but it crashed, and so the recording was corrupted, I couldn't have that in. But anyways, we're going to talk about the whole process and stuff during the making of right now, because there's a lot more I'm doing in this time-lapse. So first of all, we have a couple of issues. So the thing is, I made sure that the build is as much vanilla as I can make it, and then later on I'm gonna add some dev mode features, which technically they are vanilla too, because they are in the game without any further mods or anything. So I don't know, but it's like I really try to make sure to make it with the game's tools as much as possible. We have the general layout, and this was mandatory at the beginning in order to understand where the size is, where I can put some facilities and stuff like that. And so at the moment I'm putting down some parking lots in the middle, which obviously with the racetrack like that, with fans coming in and stuff, you need a lot of parking spaces, and it's kind of cool to see that this works out so well in the game. However, I must admit, it's gonna be tricky to bring the people here later on, and I will need to do a couple of tricks in order to make this area interesting for people to build, specifically the offices. I have a couple of commercials zoned out later in this episode, which all grew, and something I did off screen was basically deleting all the non-fitting commercials. So there were like, I don't know, 6 or 7 fuel stations on the main straight of the racetrack, and I was like, they don't fit. So I tried to make them look as if this were really like, you know, pit lane buildings, and I think it looks kind of cool. We also have like the separate alley next to the main straight, and it just all looks like the main center of the racetrack. I think it really worked out pretty well, considering we don't really have any mods. And then I started, you know, laying out a lot of these alleys as like support ways next to the track, which usually you do have. You have like a lot of these support ways and rescue ways where like obviously you have all the staff and, you know, and also the vehicles and so on stored once the race is going on. You always need to have cranes and stuff like that in different locations. So that is very important to have. So this is the area where we have it. And also at the beginning, I put down some commercials over here. Before I knew that there were some bleachers like stands, grandstands available as props with the dev mode, and they were just too good to not use. Okay, so my first idea was to use the commercials as fake stands, but then I was like, yeah, you know what, that doesn't make any sense. So yeah, at the end of the day, I went also with another trick, and that is using the different kind of cornfields and stuff like that, and crop fields and stuff like that, as an element to make sure that this looks like the gravel patches and stuff that you have around the racetrack. So I really always like this because it makes sense, you know, it just makes sense to abuse these things to get the general feeling of a certain area like that. It's gonna be all non-functional. It's gonna be all non-functional. It's just a treat for the eye, and especially it's gonna be a painful element of our city finances, because this whole area will take a lot of money into itself, but it doesn't really bring in any benefit, which to be honest is like how a real racetrack in Germany at this point in time is. So it's consuming a lot of money without bringing in any money. You know, license fees and stuff are like ridiculous, so that's also why. And also, you know, you can't really do too much with this. If we would have some fun fair stuff, or maybe like a roller coaster or whatnot, this would all be very nice to put in here, because that's exactly the area where you have it. Where you would have it. I was faster in my head than my voice was. Now, this is very interesting also how it also worked out. I used as you can see, the pedestrian street as the main racetrack. I gotta say it's not the perfect one, but there is no perfect one in here. So that is why I'm not specifically sad about this choice. It really looks good from the distance, and that's the only thing I can do at this point. We don't really have one road that is fitting. The only one that would be fitting is the alley, but the alley is too narrow, so I can't use the alley. And it also was like nice to see that the alley is a good way to make all the support roads and facility roads and blah blah blah, maintenance roads was a lot better. And yeah, you can see then at some point I decided to go all in with pedestrian roads as the connecting element of everything. It's on one hand side, it's the curb in the, you know, whenever I'm not sure if you're in racing or you just like it for the inspiration, but a racetrack usually has curbs that are parts of the track where you can extend the track to a certain degree in order to be quicker and cut the corners intentionally over these curbs, and they are usually red and white striped. I don't have anything that is red and white striped. That is a bit of a pain, but other than that was a good idea to make it. And they also always help to sell the idea of a racetrack. This is always what you need in order to sell a racetrack, including these obviously grass areas next to the track, or the gravel areas next to the track. And this is why I used all these different facilities here from the industries. The specialized industries are very helpful, come in very handy, but obviously, as I said, they will all be non-functional except the stone ones. The stone ones will be functional, which is really great, but other than that, I needed to work around myself there a little and just use these things. I mean, surely I could have used also the surface painter only. I will use the surface painter a little later today, but for the first move, I think it looks good. And you can already tell now from over here how this is. Also, there was one little layout change I did because I wasn't very pleased with the layout. I will talk you through the layout a little bit more in the real-time part. There's actually a thought behind, you know, this is not like just a random racetrack layout. There is a bit of a thought behind this. I always had fun making my own racetracks when I was younger. I even painted them on like a huge parking lot and then took my own little go-kart for it, like not an actual go-kart, but this, you know, where you have to power this yourself. How's this even called in English? I think it is still called go-kart, right? But whatever. That was really cool. It's not a bobby car, by the way. It's just like really a go-kart, and then I made that with like some chalk to the parking lot, and then just drove myself. And it always had to be realistic, and I was always inspired by my favorite tracks. By the way, if anyone is interested, my favorite race tracks in the world are, that's very hard to say the first one is easy. That's Suzuka in Japan. That's my absolute favorite. Then obviously the second place is also not too hard. That is definitely Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium. I just adore this track. It's insane to drive. Drivability on these two tracks is just ridiculous, how much I love them. And so this one over here is inspired with the flow, specifically by those two. The layout itself isn't. The layout itself is a lot more wide and open. That was mainly for the facilities. So the layout itself is a bit more Zandvoort inspired, or maybe even behind. I don't know. Just trying to keep it that way, a bit more modern, also with the sweeping curves. I left out a couple of these hard chicanes, and speaking of hard chicanes, this is another of my favorite, maybe in place number 3, in position 3, last one to make it to the podium, for me personally, is Imola. San Marino, the Italy course. I love that one. Also, that was a favorite when I was playing racing games when I was younger. Imola was always a very good track. I loved some of the hard chicanes. I loved these 90 degrees angled curves, and like the old generation cars when Michael Schumacher was really on fire. That's the time where I loved these cars specifically for these more hard turns. But nowadays, modern cars with that huge amount of downforce and stuff, it's a lot more fun to use them on flooring tracks, you know, rather than these stop and go tracks, which or Mickey Mouse courses, how they're called, but whatever. I just like try to embed like a bit more of a modern-esque appearance, because I thought this could be a racetrack that has been modernized now, but it is definitely as a result of a very old one, just like the Nordschleife or the Hockenheimring, which used to be very old racetracks here in Germany, very big ones, specifically in these regions of Germany. There's a lot of land, space, and then very hilly too. So it's like a roller coaster up and down. And this one has the same features, I should say. And I am very, very pleased with how it worked out. And whenever, like the huge advantage on this thing is, whenever we get a better road, we can just pretty much update the road and drag these areas a little bit closer to the road, and that's that, As soon as we've got the tools, I think the overall fix to make it really realistic is super simple and a very quick fix. That is also the intention. And when it comes to usability, the main racetrack obviously is not connected to the main grid of the city, so no one can actually go on to the racetrack itself, but every maintenance road is accessible and also hence will hopefully be used, so that there is a bit of life in here. And I will potentially also put a couple of sports areas in the center as well from the parks and stuff, so hopefully people will go here for other sport activities and then make this area really a bit more of an active area. You can see this is where I was starting to zone a bit more actively, and as we have like an insane commercial demand, I knew that commercial will actually grow, so I decided to go here when I was figuring that we have too little energy in the city, and I was putting in a lot more of these wind turbines here, so they will obviously help us to, first of all, gain more money, because they're super good when it comes to money, and this is frankly the only region on the map where we can utilize them, because this is where they're efficient enough to make money. In the other regions of the map, there is not enough wind to make them or use them efficiently, so we will potentially have something else in the future that is powering our city, but for the moment that is just working. And I put also like a backup energy storage down, like a backup battery. We don't have that, and simply because as we have wind in the game. I'm also not sure if the wind changes over time. I'm not entirely sure if the power of the wind changes over the game's time. I haven't really put any emphasis in that or look into that. I think it should, but I don't know. So the backup battery obviously is most likely for photovoltaic energy, but it also will be helpful for wind whenever there's like a difference in wind availability. So that is definitely a good one. So yeah, as you can see over here, this is where I was told in the Discord of creators that there is like these wonderful stands available as single objects. They are obviously from the stadiums in this game, and so like that makes a lot of sense to have them, and so I started putting them down. They have a bit of a weird hitbox. I could have deactivated the hitbox check as well, but I was like, you know what, let's face it, this is also one of the things that breaks the game the most at the moment, so just leave it. It still looks decent enough, and so I put a couple of these down to just get the feeling of a nice stand and area and stadium area, and put a couple of smaller ones down here. We also would need to have a bit more fan access to these, but I really loved how this all turned out. It really gives me the vibe of Nürburgring. I have been to both, to the Nürburgring and Hockenheimring. The race at the Hockenheimring was my favorite because Schumacher won back then. I think it was 2004 or 3, I don't know. At least the time where it was very likely that he wins. But yeah, the other one was way later, and also not for Formula 1. It was like something else. I've been to like another event to the Nürburgring. But yeah, so that was really cool. I'm very pleased with how it all turned out. You'll see that later on in the real-time part a bit better. So yeah, at some point, as I said, I was deciding to go to the surface painter to add a bit more realism to the whole thing, and you can see it just like works out so much more nice with the surface painter tool. I mean, it's such a powerful tool, and I don't really know why we don't get it in the game. For me personally, it hasn't broken anything till now, so the first crash was definitely due to something different I had in the harbor episode, but since then, the surface painter for me just works like a charm. And I could have gone even more crazy in it, but I just wanted a couple areas be nice, and that's about it, just not to go too crazy. But yeah, I'm very happy with how this entire thing turned out. Given the tools and stuff we have in the game, I think it looks really cool. I just like it, you know. Hope you guys like it too, because we are almost in the moment to hand you over to the real-time Rudi again. I'm going to show this to you in the actual play mode, and you'll see how this looks in the context of the game. I really do love it. I really loved how this all turned out to be looking. I think I just repeated myself a couple of times over here, and I will focus on making more stuff like that, because this was a lot of fun doing. A bit of a different challenge, but so we can actually test how versatile the game is. So yeah, have a look. As promised, we are back here in the real-time part to have a little look at how the Eifel Ring finally turned out to be looking. Now, there are a couple of things I have to address that didn't work out exactly how I planned them to work out. So first of all, in the zoning, we still have a lot of zoning done for the office, but we don't have that much office demand. So that's going to be hopefully fixed in the next episode when we tackle our issues. As you can see, some of the issues actually resolved themselves, but we will have to change a lot of things. I'm very much looking forward to the next episode. It's going to be very exciting. We are going to change a lot of this infrastructure. We are also going to change this madness over here. I will potentially even cut out the segment where I built this from the video, because that's just like a placeholder. The whole thing is a placeholder. It makes no sense whatsoever. I'm gonna change this entire highway connection, including this one, to the right hand side. As soon as we've unlocked the next milestone, I will guide this whole thing all the way to this point up here. So this is gonna be here, and the whole infrastructure for the industrial zone will make its way to the wind park over here to make room for a lot more urban areas down here. Now, back to the racetrack. As you can tell, I took a couple of things from the dev mode. I wanted to make it as long as possible without the dev mode. I told you in the time lapse, but I think, you know what? Actually, it looks pretty damn good. Most of the things I haven't expected to turn out that great. I mean, the usage of these industrial zones to create some of the gravel areas and, you know, part of the sides of the racetrack looks very cool, even though they're not usable and they will not produce anything. I will potentially also need to make sure that they are all turned off in order to not make too much problems. But I think the idea sells better than the problem we have. I mean, these things are operational, obviously, which is kind of cool. So we didn't have too many stone factories anyways. So this is kind of cool that we had them. And the same goes for that one over here. So these two are basically operational, which is kind of cool. Efficiency 105%, as you can see, because there is some happiness boost in the area. We have a couple of communication towers in the area. There are a couple of things like the pumping station, for example, or some cool toys over here. Some of the commercials we put down is very cool. This one over here doesn't really have customers, which is interesting, because these seem to have customers. Well, that one doesn't, but hopefully the more people come over here with the offices, the better it gets, because the racetrack obviously itself is no real tourist attraction or whatnot. It would be so cool if it was, but it isn't. Also, I was kind of missing out some rain effects on the streets. There is not really something visible in here. Might be that I've turned this off in the settings, I don't know. But in general, I must say I'm super happy with how that turned out. I think the racetrack, and if I'm going to look at this without the UI, we have a bit of a better look at this. I think it really sells the idea. The more we zoom up, the more we look from above, it really looks cool. beautiful as if this is like a real racetrack. And as soon as this is all embedded in the natural area, all the trees have grown and stuff, it's gonna look really cool. One idea I still had is to make like a abandoned old part of the track with some roads later on, but I have to see where the rest is going to make that, because, you know, if we compare that to the Nürburgring, which it is basically a little bit inspired by, it makes sense that this is kind of the thing we would look at, and, you know, having the Nordschleife makes a lot of sense that this could be the same, but then abandoned, maybe a bit more like the Hockenheimring, which its old part is now abandoned. Basically, you can find that in the woods, but only part of it. Most of it is overgrown. Some of it is actually already destroyed. So yeah, that's that. But other than that, I also liked incorporating this wonderful castle ruin over here. I think this is again one of these things that sells it. The track itself obviously is super unsafe. It's honestly, it wouldn't meet modern day race standard, at least not Formula 1. Might be something for touring or stuff like that, but a lot of things in here are super dangerous. Just like here, we would need to put some fences in, some proper guidings. We don't have actually anything we could use from the props available, so there's really not that much I could do. I tried doing the curbs over here with the pedestrian path, and, you know, also comparatively, the track is a little bit too wide anyways. It's like a huge track. I would have needed to use another road, but the other roads are way too kind of you know, painted and stuff that don't look good. And then the alley over here would have been perfect, but the alley is too thin, so too narrow, I should say. So yeah, a lot of issues, but I think apart from these, it turned out really beautifully. And one last thing I want to look at is basically the track itself. I'm relatively happy with the track. I changed a couple of things. It is a bit more of a modern one, a bit more inspired by Zandvoort, to be honest, rather than the Nürburgring itself, but it has some more modern aspects of a racetrack for the more modern day cars. So it doesn't really have too many of the sharp curves, but it has some very good overtaking opportunities. So we've got the main straight over here. Then the first part is like straight up from the Nürburgring taken. I love the first part of the Nürburgring, so I used some of it with the right-hander, then going into left-hander. So that is a very good overtaking spot over here. Then it goes into some very fast turns. You need to stick to, you know, to make sure to stay behind your opponent. Then over here, this right-hand side, if you're a lot quicker than your opponent, this would be another good overtaking spot into the right-hander here, but usually that shouldn't. But then you stay a little bit closer, then this area comes up over here, and when you make it till this point, you can still try to go for an overtake into this turn over here, because then you have this chicane, which will enable you to take the outside to the inside. Once you put yourself to the outside here on the right left-hander, you can try to stick here to the inside, or you take this main straight, basically it's not the main straight, but this actual other straight to here, and this is like another good opportunity to overtake, because the left-hander actually narrows in to the main part, to the apex of the turn. So there's a good chance to put yourself next to your opponent and then still make it through until there. So you've got 3 main overtaking opportunities on this racetrack. I think this is pretty good, better than most of the more modern day tracks, and I could imagine this is a lot of fun to drive. It's a very good mix of fast mid-speed corners and then a couple of slower ones, but the focus really of a nice flowing layout, and I'm quite happy with it. If we zoom down a little, you can see the height differences of it is very interesting as well. We almost have like an Eau Rouge kind of style thing down here. That's a very heavy turn to the left hand side here, very much the pressure you would have going down in here is insane. And then, you know, going up here again with these turns would be very, very difficult track to master. This turn over here is one of the most beautiful ones, I think. I really love this one. You come from the fast left-hander, and then you have to tie it in to the right-hand side to the apex. You can actually take a lot of the outside curb, and then the road opens up again to you. I really like it. Anyways, this should be it for today's episode. Quite a long one, so hopefully you guys enjoyed that one. And as always, if you're new to the channel and you like these cities content, this is Bad Rudisheim. I also have the Mega City US, if you've seen that one. Both of these series run in parallel, and I'm also going to keep you updated with some more tutorials. And I would be more than happy if you guys can subscribe to the channel. That would help me out a lot to reach my goals, and also to be notified whenever you want to see a new video. So that's that. Have a good one, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Goodbye.